contribution margin and gross profit. They're two phrases you may or may not have heard of. You've most likely heard of gross profit, but you may not have heard of contribution margin. They're two really important numbers to understand if you're running a construction, wholesale, or manufacturing business. Contribution margin is looking at your revenue minus your variable cost of goods sold. Let's look at the definitions. Revenue, it's what we sell from doing what we do. Variable costs of goods sold means that they should move, i.e. being variable, up and down as you sell more or less of a product. And cost of goods sold means it's directly tied to what you're doing. Let's look at a couple of examples. A variable cost of goods sold for a housing or a construction business would be things like steel beams, bricks, the concrete which goes into manufacturing a house. They will all, the more you sell, increase, or the less you sell, decrease. If you're looking at a wholesale business, if I'm in a wholesale business selling laptop computers, my variable cost of goods sold will be the laptops themselves and also the freight to get them into our possession and into our stores or to our client. If we're a manufacturing business, let's say we manufacture wooden furniture, it would be the cushions, it would be the wood that goes into the furniture are our variable costs of goods sold as very simple examples. So the calculation revenue minus variable costs of goods sold gives us our contribution margin. The reason that this is an important number is that the percentage should stay relatively consistent regardless of how much or how little we sell of our product. If I'm selling 100 laptops one month and 1,000 laptops the next month, hopefully the margin or contribution margin I'm making on each product will stay the same regardless of how much or how little I sell. The one thing it doesn't take into consideration is economies of scale. Naturally, if I'm running Walmart or Coles or Woolworths or some big grocery store, I'm going to get a better price for my Coca-Cola than the corner convenience store. But regardless of economies of scale, contribution margin should stay relatively consistent and hopefully improve for your business. Gross profit is looking at your contribution margin less your fixed costs of goods sold. So contribution margin, we spoke about variable costs of goods sold. With gross profit, it is looking at our fixed costs of goods sold. They're most likely going to be your direct labor, so the people working on the job in the factory, creating whatever you're selling, or dispatching it in the case of a warehouse, and also the occupancy, so your factory costs, your warehouse costs, they will go under your fixed costs of goods sold. And the reason being, if you were to take away the people, if you were to take away the property, you couldn't deliver the product you're providing your clients. The question and variance between the contribution margin and the gross profit is it doesn't matter how much or how little you sell in a day, you still have to pay your wages and you still have to pay for your rent, your electricity, and all the bills associated with your property. They're the two core numbers, contribution margin and gross profit. Contribution margin, revenue minus variable costs of goods sold, gives you contribution margin, and your variable costs of goods sold should shift up and down depending on how much or how little you sell. Your gross profit is then your contribution margin minus your fixed costs of goods sold, give you your gross profit, and your fixed costs of goods sold are your expenditure that you have to pay every day, regardless of how much or how little work they do.